There's a real mystery to Giotto. How does he make simplicity so profound? That's a really important part of his storytelling powers. And I want to think about that by walking, by walking in virtual reality through the arc of his storytelling. So, stepping back for a moment, this diagram and this view of the nave show us the, excuse me, the way his storytelling unfolds along the walls, with the earliest stories beginning in the top register that wraps around, and then the middle register that wraps around. The lowest register deals with Christ's passion. Remember, the root meaning of the word passion is suffering. And those are located on this lowest register at closest to eye level for the viewer. And the story begins in this top register with Mary, her biography, she who will become the mother of God. But it actually begins before she's born. It begins with this very simple composition that shows her father, Joachim. And he is literally being shoved out of the temple, the Jewish temple, where he has come to make an offering to God of a sacrificial lamb. Joachim wants to pray in the temple for a child. Joachim and his wife Anna do not have a child, but the rabbis reject him. They say that God is displeased with Joachim and Anna. That's why they have no children. And I want you to note the remarkable simplicity of the scene, especially compared to the complex ornamental world of Gothic that you've been looking at. Giotto paints a structure that feels solid and that has spatial depth, yet it's as simple as a prop in a theatrical production. And Giotto keeps the background a clear, open blue, minimizing details of the setting in order to maximize the impact of facial expressions, bodily movements, gestures, the human expression of meaning. Look at how the rabbi who pushes Joachim out uses one hand on the back to shove him, and the other hand is pulling on the cloak rather violently, a subtle violence. And look at Joachim's face. The expression is so complex. Is it hurt? Outrage? Is he stunned? Notice also how tenderly he holds the little lamb, as if it were the infant he wishes for. So Joachim returns home, dejected, to his flock of sheep and his shepherds. The setting again is simple: rocky gray landscape, broccoli trees, blue sky. Just enough stage props for you to study the drama of characters interacting, to believe in their world. Joachim steps forward, wrapping the cloak around his lamb tucked in there, and around himself, as if wanting to hide, head down, shoulders slumped. What do you see in his face? Is it shame? Is it sorrow? Giotto draws you in to study the complexity of his psychology and of his shepherds. Notice how they look at each other out of the corner of their eyes, and it's both compassionate and humorous, as if they're sort of awkwardly unsure how to respond to their boss, Joachim, who's clearly had a pretty bad day, as if they don't know what to say. And if you look at the space, the empty space between the shepherds and Joachim, it is pregnant with meaning, with a sense of being separate, a sense of being cast out of the human community. Yet the little dog leaps up and welcomes Joachim, recognizing him. I want you to watch as the story unfolds how often Giotto will cast animals as spirits of innocence and gentleness who contribute to the unfolding of the human drama. What Giotto does next is to cut away to another location, just like a filmmaker. Here, the setting is home, Joachim and Anna's home, and his wife, Anna, is on her knees praying for a child. At this very moment, an angel arrives to announce that her prayers are answered. She will bear the child Mary. So this is an annunciation scene. Giotto, in his delightfully naturalistic way, has the angel squeezing her through the window like a large bird trying to get out of a cage. This shows us how much Giotto cares about the physical reality of the events and includes homey details like the straps on the wooden case, the items on the shelf, the curtain on hooks, the maidservant who is spinning wool outside while something miraculous is happening on the other side of the wall. And if you look at the tilt of her head and the way her eyes are slightly turned, it's almost as if Giotto is hinting that she has started to hear something going on, that she's wondering, becoming aware of something significant, or only half aware. And Giotto cuts back to the story of Joachim, who at this moment has made his sacrifice to God out in the wilderness alone since he has been cast out of the temple. And yet not alone. A heavenly messenger has been sent and stands to the right, making a gesture of blessing, and looks up so that we follow that gaze and notice the hand of God reaching to bless Joachim, to answer his prayers. What's most striking here is that Joachim doesn't just kneel in prayer. He is literally on his hands and knees, like an animal. It is as if he has come down to the ground, to the level of the sheep and the goats around him, as if he has returned to a kind of ultimate humility that is a fundamental innocence. Notice also that Joachim has gone out to a solitary wilderness, yet there is another figure who is a companion to Joachim's story. Giotto frequently includes in his moments of storytelling a figure who stands as a witness to events. And that figure on some level stands for us, the viewers. Giotto wants us to feel as if we are present, witnessing the miraculous event. And so this figure stands in for that sense of participation. To me, this is one of the most moving scenes in Giotto's fresco cycle, titled Vision of Joachim. Night has fallen. We see the shepherds, once again as witnesses, now dressed in their cloaks, hats, and hoods for the chill of nighttime. An angel swoops in from the depths of the blue. Giotto's commitment to physicality and naturalism means that he paints the swoosh of the angel passing into the Earth's atmosphere like a rocket trailing stardust. The animals are gathered near, and Joachim is fast asleep, dreaming, presumably having his vision. The mood is quiet and silent. The halos shine. The miracle is being delivered to Joachim. Artistically speaking, there's another miracle, the miracle of the emotional, psychological power Giotto can invest in a blanket. Look at the tenderness of this form of Joachim, huddled underneath the blanket, a little bit like a baby, a solid mass like a boulder, his head dropped, and it is inexpressibly tender as he sleeps in front of the hut for the animals. It conveys the vulnerability of deep sleep. As Joachim sleeps, he is receiving grace and is watched over by the angel and the shepherds alike, as well as the animals. Look at the little dog alert, as if guarding Joachim in this tender moment. In the next scene, Joachim returns home and greets his wife Anna with a kiss on the bridge into the town. And then the next panel over shows us the birth of Mary, the divine birth that has resulted from the scenes we've watched before. This scene has sadly been damaged by extensive paint chipping, but it still shows Giotto's love for the human reality of events and experiences. We see Anna reach her arms out to hold her newborn, who is tightly swaddled. The practice at the time was to wrap infants in layers of cloth, making them look like little mummies. And then if you move down, you see that the nurses here are performing that swaddling. This is an unusual moment for Giotto because he has two time points combined in one scene. Usually he prefers to respect the unity of time and space so that it is utterly convincing that we are there watching it happen. But he seems here to really want us to get the before and the after. The moment of the maidservants washing the face of little baby Mary. Another moment of the physicality, the honest physical reality of human bodies. She's being cleaned up, she's being wrapped, and then she's presented to her mother. The story now follows Mary growing up as she becomes old enough to be ceremoniously presented in the temple. Giotto captures the gestures and expressions of her shyness as look how she leans back, and her mother sort of gently coaxes or even pushes her forward. He wants the scene to have the texture and flavor of real life. One of the ways he does that is to place figures with their backs to us. Two men conversing, a servant hunched, straining under the load he's carrying, struggling for footing to get up the stairs. Giotto's composition is made in 1300, but it's like a candid snapshot taken at a wedding with all the awkward bits of people accidentally in the picture frame instead of the posed wedding picture taken by the professional photographer. Speaking of weddings, we jump ahead to Giotto's portrayal of the marriage ceremony between Mary and her new husband Joseph, and the celebration with music afterwards. At this point, the storyline moves from the main wall to the arched wall that leads to Scrovegni's burial space. And Giotto has placed there Mary's annunciation from the angel at the very top. The announcement that she will give birth to the Savior. I've shown a close-up of the scene below Mary kneeling as she receives news from the kneeling angel. The scene that is called the Visitation, where Mary embraces her cousin Elizabeth, who is miraculously pregnant with St. John the Baptist. You met him at the very beginning of the class when you saw Raphael's painting, the Madonna with the goldfinch. I just wanted to quickly show you that you've seen this theme before, this story of the Annunciation, carved in sculpture at Reims Cathedral with the Visitation. Notice that even though the sculptures are very naturalistic and believably bodies, they are somewhat elegant bodies. They are rather courtly, with a kind of dainty posture and delicacy, compared to the kind of solid, humble quality of the figures who stand here not like courtly figures, but like ordinary women. Mary's story culminates with the birth of Jesus. Giotto sets the scene in a barren, rocky landscape, a landscape that expresses the struggle of Mary and Joseph to find shelter.